Right, hi everyone. Yes, I was to talk about this article because obviously Bobby Beausoleil's just been approved for parole again, hasn't he? And and people have brought up this thing that was brought up at his 1985 parole hearing about him creating possible child pornography. And so I thought I'd cover that. I had a look around and I found some articles about it because there's what was said in the parole hearing, but there's also a few newspaper articles that I thought we could read out. And please stick around to hear the second article as well, at least, not just the first article, because that gives their response to it. And there is a third article I wanted to read out, which talks about the progress he'd made by this point in 1985 at this parole hearing. And everyone seemed really confident he was going to get out back then, if you will, as you'll hear when I read out these articles. But yeah, how is everyone anyway? Yeah. Uh, yes, hello, everyone. Yeah. Oh, sorry to hear about your mum being in hospital, being getting. Hope she's all right. Yeah. Yeah, so three articles to read out. And yeah, I felt bad for his wife more than anything because people seem to have the impression that Bobby and his wife were pedos or something, and they weren't at all. It sounds like she was actually quite a nice woman, and they stayed married right up until her death. She died, and they had conjugal visits, and she had kids, so I assume they're his kids, so he had kids as well as sex. But yeah, it's kind of sad that people are thinking badly of her because of this. So yeah, we'll get to it when I read out the articles anyway. We'll hear about it. Yeah. Hmm. Oh, she on the mend. Your mum's all right then. That's okay. She'll get better. Excellent. Right, well, I'll get on with reading stuff out. So we've got something to discuss. I'll get to this. Right, a parole board refused to set a release date Wednesday for an associate of Charles Manson, partially because he had a hand in publishing an alleged child pornography newsletter from his cell at the California men's colony. But Bobby Beausoleil, 38, who was convicted of murdering musician Gary Hinman on Manson's orders in 1969, has made good progress while in prison and will get another chance at parole next year, the board ruled. The board ordered an independent investigation of the October incident, in which CMC officials said they discovered pornographic drawings and stories that Beausoleil tried to mail to his wife in the Rio Grande. The investigation will also focus on whether Beausoleil actually was a Manson family member, a label prosecutors say he once wore proudly but now shuns. Concerning the pornography ring, Beausoleil was found guilty at an administrative hearing on October 23rd of running an unauthorised business out of his cell. A disciplinary board has entered into his file by CMC officials. Beausoleil's attorney is appealing that ruling. Beausoleil refused to answer the board's questions concerning the newsletter Sassy Bottoms on advice of his attorney, Dan Helbert. Beausoleil's wife, Barbara, declined to discuss the charges, which also implicate her. This is something I'm not free to comment on either, she said today. She said she plans to file lawsuits against the Department of Corrections and the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office over the charges. Helbert asked the board not to allow the materials to be admitted as evidence. It included dozens of sexually explicit drawings involving children, adults, and satyrs, and at least one article written in longhand, allegedly by Beausoleil. The board denied his motion. Helbert said he will appeal that decision. The newsletter is designed for people with an abnormal interest in bare-bottom spanking of children, said Jeff Jonas, a deputy district attorney from Los Angeles who attended the hearing. Beausoleil and his wife own Beausoleil Enterprises, which is the parent company of B&B Enterprises, Barbara's own publishing company. Beausoleil told the board, I assist her in whatever I can do. The company puts out greetings cards, stationery and periodicals, Beausoleil acknowledged, but he refused to discuss the pornography allegations. B&B Enterprises is a front for their pornographic magazine, Jonas charged. Copies of the materials furnished to the board were marked B&B Enterprises in what Jonas said was Beausoleil's own hand. Besides the explicit drawings and articles, the Beausoleils allegedly sent out a spanking questionnaire, which asked preferences, as would the person rather be the spanker or the spankee, if they prefer a paddle or bare hand, and how underwear should be positioned while spanking. Jonas said copies of the questionnaire were given to the board. There was also a table of contents for an upcoming issue of the newsletter, which featured articles with titles like Pamela's Lesson. Sorry, got to switch pages here. Choir Boy's Reward and Wet Spankings. The copy of Pamela's Lesson, which Jonas said was written in Beausoleil's hand, graphically described the heroic spanking of an 11-year-old girl. Mr. Beausoleil has his own norms and is setting his own rules, Jonas said, and that should concern us all. Jonas also pointed to an interview that Beausoleil gave to writer Truman Capote while on death row at San Quentin in the 1970s. In it, Beausoleil talked of Helter Skelter and the race riot Manson said would signal the end of the world. According to the transcript of the interview, which Jonas obtained from Random House publishers, Beausoleil called Helter Skelter Justice Day, stating, "I have my own kind of justice. I live by my own law." Helbert made angry interruptions during Jonas's closing arguments, saying the transcript was old and was being taken out of context. "If you want to read it, why not read it in its entirety?" he asked. Beausoleil touted his relationship with Manson for years, once asking to be assigned as his cellmate, Jonas claimed. Manson, Manson, Manson is all we hear from Beausoleil's mouth for the first 8 or 9 years, Jonas said. Beausoleil later figured that the association with the Manson family would hurt his parole chances, so he tried to disassociate himself from the cult, Jonas said. Arguments closed with a tearful plea from Beausoleil to have a parole date set. "I'd hoped after 16 years I could stop hearing the same type of hysterical lines from the county of Los Angeles," he said. "I'd like to answer the pornography charges, but couldn't on the advice of my attorney," Beausoleil said. "To have dirt slung on me like that doesn't feel good. I've never done child porno or anything like that." Despite his refusal to specifically address the pornography charges, Beausoleil implored the board to set a date anyway. "All we're asking for is the light at the end of the tunnel," he said. "If there's any veracity to any of these claims, you can prove it later and take the parole date away from me." Based on the heinous nature of Hinman's murder, coupled with the association with the Manson family and the pornography allegations, the board refused to set a parole date, but will allow Beausoleil a hearing next year. The board could have delayed that hearing for up to 3 years. Board member Ray Jarigui of San Luis Obispo took particular notice of Beausoleil's excellent psychiatric reports and strong family ties that make him a good candidate for parole. "Prisoners sure helped you," Jarigui said. "A lot of people come in here and don't do anything. You're one of the exceptions. My hope is to live with my wife where she is living now in Rio Grande," Beausoleil said. "I'm sure you're going to get there someday," said providing board member Joe Acito. Beausoleil killed Hinman in what prosecutors say was an attempt to extort $20,000 from the musician on Manson's orders. Beausoleil later retracted that statement, saying that Manson had nothing to do with the murders. Beausoleil was arrested on August 6, 1969 in San Luis Obispo County, where he was found sleeping in Hinman's stolen car. 3 female Manson family members, convicted in the subsequent Tate LaBianca killing, said those 7 murders were copycat killings, committed after Beausoleil was arrested, and meant to convince police that the wrong man was in jail and Hinman's killer was still at large. "Is Mr. Beausoleil denying to this day that he was a member of the Manson family?" Jonas said. "It's ludicrous." Right, so yeah, that's basically what they had done. It's a newsletter that they supposedly published, and there's another article where his wife goes into more detail about what it actually is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, as we'll get into, yeah, there's a whole world of it is a big fetish, isn't it? There's a big market for it, and that's what it is. Yeah. Oh, you go for the paddle, do you? Yeah. You're the spanker of spanky. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Choir boys reward. Yeah. So yeah, the parole board were probably wondering where they could get copies of the newsletter, weren't they? As they were reading it. Yeah, that's it. So when we get to the next article, you hear more about the actual newsletter. And also, I looked for because the wife said that she was going to start a lawsuit against the district attorney's office and the men's colony, and I could never find any lawsuits started by them about this. But neither of them were ever convicted either. And like as she says, when I read the next article, she says that's the point. If it was child pornography, why hadn't they arrested her? Why did they never arrest her? But yeah, strange thing. Yeah, well, the final article I read out, it gets into that. Yeah, how bad it is. Well, he was 38 by this time as well. This parole hearing was happening. So yeah, not so young anymore. It had been a long time. That's it. Yeah. We're getting out in a year or two. Well, if he gets approved and it's as quick as Leslie, yeah, it'll be within the year, won't it? If the governor doesn't stop it, the big what's he called? Oh, they're mentioning his name because they're blaming him for the wildfires at the moment as well, aren't they? What's he called now? No, Bobby isn't. Bobby isn't out now. No, he's still in prison, isn't he? He's been approved for parole, but he's not out. Yeah. And the what do you call it? The district attorney or whatever could still stop it. The governor of California could still stop it, and probably will. Everyone thinks he probably will. But he's just been approved by the parole board, hasn't he? Yeah. That's it. Gavin Newsom. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, but everyone's talking about him because of the fires now. They're saying he's not done enough about the fires and all that. Yeah. It's his decision now, isn't it? Yeah, I'll read the next article out. So we could only see his wife. See what's his wife there. And this is from about a year later. Right. The prosecutor says that Bobby and Barbara Beausoleil published child pornography. The Beausoleils say they publish erotic art. The state is conducting an investigation to see who is right. The Beausoleils admit that some people might find their artwork not to their liking. They publish a newsletter, Sassy, which deals with spanking and discipline. It has stories dealing with erotic and non-erotic sides of spanking, of children and adults. It features Beausoleil's drawings. Prosecutor Jeff Jonas introduced some of these drawings at Beausoleil's parole hearing last December in an attempt to show a child pornography ring was being run out of Beausoleil's CMC cell. That was one reason why the Board of Prison Terms refused to give him a parole date. This activity indicates the prisoner is unsuitable for parole at this time, board member Joe Acedo said at the hearing. Picasso did erotic art, Barbara Beausoleil said later. John Lennon did erotic art. Erotic art where youngsters have their pants down, Jonas said in a recent interview. Barbara Beausoleil has filed claims with Los Angeles County and the California Men's Colony. Those will be followed up with lawsuits for slander, she said. The Beausoleils believe the accusations were brought up because Bobby was getting close to a parole date, and it is an issue that would make the Board of Prison Terms take notice. Bobby came this close to getting a date last year, Barbara said, holding her fingers an inch apart. Jonas was going to make sure he came up with something to keep this from happening. It's an emotionally charged subject, Bobby said. He chose a good one. You just say the words child pornography and people are up in arms. Barbara Beausoleil is incensed that Jonas calls Sassy Bottoms child pornography. She said if it were, she would have been arrested already, as she has made no secret of her address or actions in publishing the newsletter. Some people could consider it pornography, but it would have to be a real stretch of the imagination, she said. Some people don't distinguish erotic art from pornography, and there is a real difference. Barbara said she found there was an interest in erotic spanking by others, and they're willing to pay her for her to publish the stories. I never knew the phenomenon existed until a few years ago, she said. A surprising amount of modern art has depicted spanking, she said, displaying works dating back to the 1920s. Bobby got into publishing his work when adult magazine Puritan offered to buy some of his art in 1979. For any man in prison, it's a really big thing to be offered money to do something, she said. He illustrates some of the stories I publish, and he contributes significantly to our income that way. Not many inmates support their family from prison. Starting the newsletter was a hard decision, she said. We went around and around about it. I wasn't real sure it was something we should get involved in, Barbara said. But she began researching the subject, and the more I read, the more fascinated I became with the subject, she said. I just became intrigued by the whole thing. There's a lot of literature on childhood discipline, and now there's this sort of renaissance of spanking enthusiasts, she said. Her mailing list grew, and the newsletter became very successful, profitable, and I think socially redeeming. Barbara claims, and CMC documents back her up, that CMC officials confiscated Bobby's drawings last year, checked them out, and gave them back. Rather than accusing him of child pornography, prison officials charged him with running an unauthorized business. He is appealing that charge. So again, if it was child pornography, why did they give him the drawings back as well? And why was she never arrested? That's the thing. So it's like this guy at the parole hearing, a prosecutor, alleged it was child pornography, and everyone's just taken it as he was right. But it seems when they investigated it, they weren't done for child pornography. So they must have decided it was erotic art, whatever the hell that means. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, well, Leslie and Bobby are the ones that got retried because Bobby was sentenced to even less time than Leslie, 12 years to life, and she got 20 years to life or something like that, didn't she? So he should have been let out a long time ago as well. Yeah, it is a shame. When did he marry her? Oh, it says in that article, doesn't it? 1981, I think I read. The end of December 1981. Yes, I was reading all these articles earlier to rehearse read them. So yeah, 1981 he married her, and she died a couple of years ago, and they stayed married all that time. And in her obituary, it says she had children, so I assume they're his children as well. And when I read out the next article, you'll find, yeah, it does say that they had conjugal visits every couple of months, so they could be his kids. In the day, he was a male hustler and hooked up with Kenneth Anger from Hollywood Babylon fame. He was. But this was like by what? So 1985. This magazine came from a year later, I think. Actually, so like when they were this newspaper. So this is like their response to him being charged with that, and her as well. But she was never actually charged or arrested or anything like that. So it all just came to nothing. It was just someone trying to throw something in the way of him getting out because he was getting close to being approved for parole because he improved dramatically over the year. Oh, hello, Beckham. See you there. We've got 55 people watching. Yeah, like I said, there's another article. And the photos of him. Yeah, I like the photos of him that came with the first one. Oh, I didn't put just the raw photo. Yeah, look at this photo. That's 3 photos in a row. This was, yeah, from the parole hearing where they confronted him about the Sassy Bottoms newsletter that he writes with his wife. But yeah, they're not lying about the whole spanking fetish thing being a huge area. So it isn't really like that strange. And he wasn't like the guy said he was making up his own rules and that, but no, actually, it's a whole thing. The spanking thing. It's not like Bobby Beausoleil didn't make that up. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, that's what I always thought. Wouldn't it be funny, yeah, if they ended up getting it? Well, Bobby's wife has died, the one that he was married to all these years. So yeah, don't know if he's got another one yet. They always have women interested in them, don't they? Apparently, for some reason. God. Anyway, yeah, because it is interesting. It gave you more information about his wife as well. Yeah, he married her in December outside the men's colony. At yeah, where he meant to. Yeah, I butchered the name of the place where the guy comes from as well, and where he was arrested. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Hmm. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, I just wanted to read out that this the first 2 articles are the most important ones anyway, because it shows they never actually were convicted of child pornography, so it's unfair to call them pedos and say that it was child pornography because the prison gave the pictures back and she was never arrested, so they can't have been that bad, can they? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Bobby was allowed conjugal visits. Yeah, he was. Yeah, and according to the uh, obituary for her, she had kids as well, and she stayed married to Bobby Beausoleil until she died. So presumably the kids are his as well. Yeah. I think he's older than that, isn't he? Sort of going towards his late 70s, isn't he? Yeah, that's sad. Yeah, yeah. Because when I'm reading stuff out as well, I can't see the chat. So like, yeah, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I can't see the chat when I'm reading stuff out because I'm reading. Obviously, I'm not looking at the chat, am I? Yeah. So yeah. Hmm. 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 Yeah, no, I can't be bothered to read that out again. Sorry. You just have to not have it. Yeah, it would be like say on the subreddit and in my Facebook group if you want to read the whole article. It's frustrating though because it says some good stuff about his. It gives summaries of all his psychiatry reports as well, going right from the 70s, showing how he progressed and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, Sharon Tate's mum got banned for people convicted of murder, didn't she? Yeah. But Bobby appears to have managed to have some kids in the meantime as well. I wonder if that still stands as well now. Has that been changed since? Who knows? Yeah, that's it. Doris Tate, the number one cookbook, yeah. With these headphones on, makes you jump. That's it, yeah. I thought people would have more to say. People comment in the groups, but yeah. No, we've got a lot to say when we're actually live. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's already in the Facebook group. Don't think I have put this one up yet. So I know I've put the first article up in the Facebook group, haven't I? It's on the subreddit, yeah. I'll do it, yeah, I'll put the third article up as well. Yeah. Pretty weird as well, I think, because they still had it all covered up back then, didn't they? Now they can't conceal it anymore. So there'd have been no need for such a cover up in this day and age, because everyone knows already, don't they? What was going on. Yeah. Danny and Tex. Danny DiCarlo. Don't know about Danny. Linda, apparently people's behaviour changed after Linda showed up as well. Linda made them more violent, weirdly enough. And Tex definitely, wasn't he? And Bobby, because the girls were all hot for him, weren't they? And were trying to free him, and that was why they ran out and committed the murders. Trying to, like you said in the articles we were just reading out, trying to make it look like the human's killer was still at large. Yeah, that's it. And the wires being cut at Sebring's place. But that doesn't necessarily have to have been the family as well that cut the wires. It could have been anyone, because Sebring and that lot had pissed off a few people, not just the Manson family by the sound of things. So that could have been anyone that did that, couldn't it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, don't know. So I suppose it is kind of, it's more isolated, isn't it? Yeah, quite isolated, but not that isolated. I mean, there's properties overlooking it, and yeah, there were a lot of people heard a lot of noises going off, and all that sort of thing, wasn't there? Yeah, a lot more than people realise actually was overheard, and more people said more to the press than we get from the police files, because the police have only showed us part of their files, haven't they? Not all of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. We've been going 39 minutes. Should have waited longer to read out that other article. Then maybe the sound would have screwed up. I can't work out what went wrong with the sound really, though, because there's nothing to go wrong on a live stream, really. Yeah, and I said the internet connection went weird. Hmm. So that's it. Well, I don't know. I might as well finish this and go to an after show then. Yeah. So it's just like a killer at the Tate thing, but his first crime. Yeah, Danny was friends with Pick and Billy, and he's from Canada. Yeah, well, Danny DiCarlo comes from Canada as well, Danny. Has some kind of connection to, well, he was in the Coast Guard, wasn't he? Which isn't the same as the military that Bill Lippner would have been in, but Bill Lippner was in the Canadian military before he got kicked out. But Tex could have met the Canadians as well, because he was off running around with Rosina, wasn't he? Apparently he and Rosina were at John Phillips' New Year's Eve party, and the Canadians knew the mamas and papas, didn't they? So Tex could have known the Canadians as well as Danny DiCarlo. That's the other thing. Hmm. You watched it? Yeah, I don't think I could. I've never been able to watch it because of country restrictions. It's never made it to YouTube, has it? Maybe it doesn't tell the truth, though, does it? Calling it cutting to the truth, and it doesn't actually tell the truth about him, does it? Really, though? So it's not really. Yeah. You mean Tex? Yeah, he was best friends with. Yeah, Joe Dorgan, isn't it? Yeah, the boyfriend of Susan Struthers. We've talked about that in other streams, haven't we? Yeah, in the Lobby Anchor stream, that weird hypothesis that I found, yeah, and I could never find the authors of it. But yeah, that was interesting. The hypothesis that Joe Dorgan and Tex Watson were trying to take over the drug scene and overthrow all the drug dealers. Because it is interesting how a lot of the people killed in these murders actually were drug dealers. So it's like they were trying to overthrow a lot of people. Yeah. Mm. Mm. No, they planned for them to go. They forced them up to CLA. Yeah. But like I say, it wasn't just the Manson family that were after them as well. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was them that did that up Sebrings. It would have been symbolic as well, wouldn't it, if the Canadians were going to do it, because that's where they did what they did to Billy Doyle, CLO, so they'd want to do it in CLO if they were going to take their revenge on them, wouldn't they? Well, Danny was Joe's buddy. Because, yeah, because Tex is supposed to have known Joe Dorgan as well, isn't he? They talk about, yeah. 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 You got robbed the first time you sold drugs. At least you didn't get murdered, like everyone at CLO Drive. No, they were not very good drug dealers, clearly, were they? If they got. Yeah, so, in bad taste. None of these people were very good drug dealers. Mm. Mm. So it's, well, I've seen that. Yeah, the one clip of it where he does the goodbye horses thing from Silence of the Lambs, and that's it. That's all I've seen with clips. I think I saw those films. Joe and Silent Bob were in later though, because they did do bigger films later, didn't they? Hmm. Tasted too much of everything, didn't he? The list of drugs he did is ridiculous. No wonder he fucking did what he did. In the end, he completely broke himself with drugs. It's terrible. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then well, we don't know much about Rosina. What she actually did, do we? Yeah. No, Tex tried to rip her off. But yeah, we don't know what kind of prophet she turned, do we? Don't know anything about her, really. Yeah. David Lynch died. I interviewed a guy who worked with David Lynch on Twin Peaks in that stream about, what's he called? David Schneiderman, the guy at the Redlands bust, who changed his name to David Jove. And he was accused well, he was a possible suspect in that murder of Peter Ivers. Crazy. Hi there. I stayed going for a little while. Yeah, the Canadian sure had a ton of cocaine with them. Well, that's in the police report as well that Mama Cass threw Billy Doyle out of her house because he turned up with a 2 pound block of cocaine. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah. You think he killed before he shot the one guy? What do you mean? Charles Manson shot Bernard Crowe. You talk about Bernard Crowe. Tex didn't shoot him. Bernard Crowe. If that's what you mean, but it was Charles Manson that shot Bernard Crowe, wasn't it? Not Tex. Tex didn't go. Tex robbed Bernard Crowe, but he wouldn't go back. Charles Manson had to go and sort it out, didn't he? And Charles Manson shot Bernard Crowe. Why are you talking about Tex though? I don't know. But yeah, yeah. The more I've learned about the Canadians, the more I find it hard to see how they didn't have anything to do with it. To be quite honest, the amount that they had been pissed off by everyone in Hollywood, I can't imagine that they didn't take revenge in some way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Massaro. Yeah. No, I've forgotten the other one's name. Rostow, Joel Rostow. Rostow and Massaro, yeah, yeah. Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. The Canadians everywhere. One of them. That's yeah. Rosdell Mastaro, and it Joel Rosdell, and yeah, was it Rosdell is the one that was killed and was found in the boot of a car, and he was connected to the airport that Tex worked at. I know the one who was killed was connected to the airport that Tex worked at. That's one of the other intriguing connections, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think they were working for them. Well, who knows? Maybe they walked in on the Canadians doing something up there because the police seemed convinced that there was a second man there as well, and it does look like there had to have been more people because the girls, by the sound of it, were actually pretty useless and couldn't have done what was done. Maybe they did, but I find it difficult to believe that there weren't more people there. So what if the family walked in on the Canadians already torturing them or whatever? Who knows what was going on up there? Yeah, could be anything, couldn't it? They don't necessarily have to have planned it together and gone up there together. They could have all just arrived at the same time, all with the same idea in mind. But yeah, Tex and Linda could have easily met the Canadians and known the Canadians just from hanging out. And Susan apparently went out into Hollywood and just hung out with people, didn't she? She hung around with Cass Elliot. And the Canadians were around Cass Elliott's house, so they all could have known them, couldn't they? But I don't think the Canadians would have needed the help of the Manson family. They wouldn't have asked for the help of the Manson family. And obviously Billy Doyle doing it himself. It was too obvious, wasn't it? Them doing it themselves. But I didn't know about Bill Littler until his kids contacted me as well. But Bill Littler has previously kept his name out of everything, and he's never been mentioned anywhere. So yeah, could they have got him involved? They would have known other people they could have got to come and do it, like nameless people. That's the thing. But yeah, writing pig on the door definitely seems to have been an attempt to frame Pick Dawson, doesn't it? And apparently Cass Elliot and John Phillips thought that it was Pick Dawson, didn't they? And they said about Pick, yeah. 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 That's it. The Canadians were pros and the Manson kids were amateurs, yeah. That's it. And they just let the Manson kids get caught. That's it, because they were too stupid. They let the Manson kids do it for them, maybe. Hmm. Canadians are wildly old. Yeah. Yeah, but watch the stream where I interviewed Bill Littler's daughter, because that's interesting. Tells you about him. So that's Billy Doyle's business partner. Like I say, he's one that previously is unheard of, that no one else wasn't revealed in Chaos. No one else has heard of him before. And I've done a stream showing Billy Doyle's face for the first time, a photo of him from the 80s. And the earlier ones I can't show. Yeah. Mm. I think it was planned over a week or so. And this is the thing as well. I don't think it looks like it was planned as well, though. I think it looks like something that went wrong. They just planned to rob them. To me, it looks like they were going to do a distraction robbery. So, like, the girls were going to keep them occupied in the living room while Tex went to the bathroom or whatever and went through and tried to rob the drugs while they were distracted by the girls. But it went wrong. That's what my instinct of what it was. It was what actually happened. I don't think they went up there actually intending to kill everyone. I think that was added later as a detail, and they claimed that later. When it got to the trial and they had to blame Charlie and try and claim that it was in Charles Manson's behest that they did everything. Hmm. Oh right, yeah, the straight Satans. Maybe Tex was got in with the straight Satans through knowing Danny, because everyone doesn't. No one wants to talk about Tex, do they? Or their relationship to Tex. Everyone's because the attention's all been taken by Susan and Charlie. Everyone just cares about Charlie. I want to know what Tex was doing when he was hanging around in Hollywood. Who did he hang around with? How many people knew Tex? Because people would be even more reluctant to admit they knew Tex because he's the one that actually did the stabbing, isn't he? He's the more controversial one, yeah. Hmm. You think Garrettson and Parent were in on the robbery, yeah. Well, I wonder why Garrettson lived. But this thing about if he ran off because he saw something, him and Cary Grant ran off down the back trails or whatever, why did he return and go to sleep? Because when the police arrived, they apparently woke him up. He was asleep in the guest house. So if he did escape and that's why he lived, why would he return? If he knew like horrible murders had happened, surely he wouldn't go back, he'd stay away. And he wouldn't like walk past the bodies on the lawn and go into the guest house and just go to sleep and not do anything, surely. When he returned. It just seems it seems off if he did leave. So yeah, I wonder if but yeah, the only reason they would let him live, isn't it? If it was if he had a reason not to snitch. So if he was involved somehow, yeah, like you say, he must have been involved. If they didn't kill him. Hmm. That's it. Rosdale was found dead at JFK, New York. So there you have it. Hmm. Yeah, he wanted money and drugs or both, because he wanted to be a hybrid of Charlie. He also was into Dennis Wilson as well, wasn't he? I found pictures of Dennis Wilson that look where he looks weirdly like Tex. So I think Tex was actually trying to model himself on Dennis Wilson. And he was obviously into drug dealing, wasn't he? And he was into drug dealing before he met Manson as well. So I think, yeah, the money and drugs wasn't just about Manson as well. Because he was already involved with drug dealing before he met Manson. So that's more like it. We've been going 50 minutes now anyway. Yeah, sorry about that article going wrong. I don't know what could have gone wrong with the sound. Unless my hair was rubbing against the mic or something like that. But you're saying it's sped up. So I have to listen back to it. I'll just cut it out if it's too bad to. You really can't understand any of it. I might as well just cut it out as a recording. Yeah. You guys wondered if Dennis Wilson was at the tape murders and there was a cover up of the Beach Boys' squeaky clean reputation. Then Dennis wasn't forced to testify, and in chaos, he says that was because Dennis had gone absolutely nuts by the time of the trial, so they couldn't let him testify because he was just going off on one. He didn't make sense. That's it. Yeah, well, if he was at the tape murders, I don't know, but he's supposed to have been involved with Gary Hinman, isn't he? Because Manson, he says in the Manson file that Charles Manson actually met Dennis Wilson for the first time around Gary Hinman's house, not getting picked up as a hitchhiker or whatever the fuck the story is. He actually met him at Gary Hinman's house. So could Dennis have been involved in Gary Hinman's murder? Who knows? Hmm. If it wasn't for a hookup, Cary Grant could have been at CLA because he was super into LSD, yeah, or wanted to try the MDA, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I've showed pictures of him. Well, I've done streams about Danny DeCarlo, haven't I? I've shown that picture of him in the court, yeah. So, didn't you see my stream about Danny DeCarlo and what he said in court? So I showed that picture. Mental health problems, didn't they? And the Manson murders are going to have made Dennis Wilson much worse, aren't they? And he had a problem with alcohol. Everyone was dropping tons of acid. So no, he had gone nuts. I can believe he did go nuts, and that was the reason why they couldn't have him in court. Yeah, because he'd have broke down and admitted too much. That's why they didn't want him in court, innit? Yeah. Mm. 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 Cary Grant was up there looking for a rent boy, not drugs. Yeah, that's it. Who knows which one? Mm. Yeah, yeah. So ways of it. Yeah. That's it. No, it's in the when they talked about the day. Yeah, Danny DeCarlo was in court, and they brought Tex into court that day as well. It was really bizarre. And Danny DeCarlo apparently swore in court as well. and all that. Yeah. Mm. I think this has gone on long enough now. I might have a bit of a break and then do an after show. I'm just going to make myself a cup of tea. 5 minute break. Do a bit of an after show. I want to chew. Mm. Yeah, that's it. Bugged him on him because he was fond of Manson and wouldn't follow the script. Yeah. But he knew the implication it was going to, the impact it would have on his brothers, didn't he, if it came out, his relationship with Manson and that. So, yeah, he had to. That was it. I think there was a power struggle that Manson was too blind to see. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean by that. What was text? Trying to overthrow Charlie or whatever do you mean? Like, I don't know. Because Manson, actually, if you listen to what Manson was saying, he didn't really want to have control over people at all. He wanted people to come up with their own ideas and do things for their own reasons, didn't he? Though he obviously did control the girls, but the way a pimp controls their subjects, not like a mind control. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really annoying because our article was worth hearing. I'll have to cut it out, won't I? If it's no good, yeah, and I'll show it on the subreddit. I'll put it on the subreddit so anyone can read it, even if you're not on Facebook. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, right, I'll end this one now. And we'll come back in 5 minutes and do a bit of an after show. I am pretty tired. Thanks for coming, everyone. And sorry about the audio difficulties. If you're watching this on playback, I might have even cut out the one that went wrong. But yeah, anyway, the first two articles are the most important ones because that gets across their response to the porn thing, doesn't it? And the third article, yeah, just talks more about the progress he's made and how sad it was. How sad it is, really, that he's not been released. He should have been released years ago. So should Leslie. Everyone just cares about, well, people just have an emotive response to this case, don't they? Because it's such an emotive case. And it's so sad. Yeah. People like to think he was the mastermind, but he clearly wasn't, was he? That's the thing, and people are realizing that now, aren't they? And there is like more appetite to discuss it. That new documentary, people seem more open-minded about it, didn't they? And we're definitely talking about Save a Brother more. Even Stephen Kay was slagging off Billy Oakley, wasn't he, in that documentary? It was funny to see Stephen Kay acting like that. Because in other documentaries, he stood by Helter Skelter, didn't he? It was obviously after Tom O'Neill showed him his notes, and he saw Billy Oakley's notes. Because Billy Oakley had it in his notes that Melcher continued visiting the family after he said he did in court and that. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. There is no mastermind behind it. That's it. It's crazy. It wasn't. It wasn't planned, was it? None of it was planned. It was just the bloody result of loads of people with psychedelic burnout getting paranoid and scared and trying to free Bobby any way they could. And I don't believe that they actually went to CLA Drive intending to kill everyone. I think something went wrong, and we'll never truly know exactly what happened and why. But I just don't think that that's what was meant to happen. And they going with knives and weapons doesn't necessarily mean they intended to kill everyone, because if you read the trial transcripts and that, the girls talk about how they normally carried knives anyway. For like when they went dumpster diving to cut the bad bits of vegetables and that, just anyway. For like woodworking and whatever. They lived on a ranch, didn't they, and were doing tasks every day. So the fact they went up their arm doesn't necessarily mean they did plan to kill everyone. But who knows? Yeah. So yeah, well, the black clothes. So I believe they were trying. They were trying to do burglaries. They were going to do burglaries as well because Susan wanted money to get a good lawyer for Bobby. And well, according to what Susan said in the penalty phase, she said it was her and Linda that came up with the idea to do it, like as a copycat thing. Or to no, or to yeah, to make it look like the killer was still at large, so that they would free Bobby, and that's probably why Leslie went along as well. Just goes to show how mess how messed up their heads were, if they actually thought that this would actually work and that this was going to make the situation any better. They went out for the second night after they killed Sharon Tate as well. Like they thought that killing more people would make it better. It's just terrible, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Linda, it is quite shocking that Linda is the only one that did no prison time whatsoever and got away with it essentially, and then went on and did more drug dealing. She was arrested for drug dealing later in life as well, wasn't she? So who knows what else she did? What other murders she was responsible for? She didn't do it herself. She got some crazy guy with psychedelic plan out to do it, obviously, didn't she? Yeah. Yeah, some kind of creepy crew gone awry. But I think, like I say, you call it a distraction robbery. That's where someone sneaks off, says they're going to the toilet, and rifles through the house, finds where the drugs are stashed, and steals the drugs, and then they all leave. Sort of thing. I think they were going to do something like that. Well, they'd gone up to appeal to them for money because they knew Abigail Folger, didn't they? And Abigail Folger probably knew Bobby as well, and she would have heard, when they would have asked her for money to try and get Bobby out of jail, and she probably refused them. She probably said no way, didn't she? And then they turned and got angry. But we can only speculate about these things, can't we? Because half the people don't want to believe that they actually knew Abigail Folger. But Abigail Folger had apparently given them money before. And we definitely know that she funded a show that Bobby played as part of, his band played as part of. So there's at least that connection between her and Bobby. But she's supposed to have also given money to Charlie before, isn't she? And I can believe they went up there asking her for more money, and she said no. And she renounced Charlie. She said something bad about Charlie or whatever, and that's what pissed them off and turned them. And they started attacking them, and that's where the fight started, maybe. Hmm. And then they started saying, well, you owe us money anyway for that MDA. Give us our money back. And they said, oh, well, we haven't got it. Just got to wait for the drugs to arrive. And too late. Killed everyone. That sort of thing. Yeah. You think it was planned? Yeah. Two men and one man. It was one man, wasn't it? That's the thing. Sex. That's it. What I've always wondered as well. Why weren't Sebring and Frykowski armed? Shows how arrogant they were, thinking that they were going to get away with all the stuff they've been doing by the side of things. So they were sat there completely unarmed, even. Terrible. There was quite a few dogs. There was quite a few dogs there, wasn't there? They were all described. Garrettson describes them, and Outerbelly describes the dogs that are there as well in their testimony. I've read that out. Haven't I, somewhere? Yes, but there's a good Mae Brussels show with the arresting officer where she interviews the arresting officer of Charles Manson. I was thinking we could do a stream where I react to that. We can sit and listen to that. And react to that. That'd take a long time because the show itself is an hour, and I'd have to keep pausing it. And that would be something to react to, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but they weren't guard dogs. The dogs that were there, should I say? They were pets. They were just Outerbelly's pets. And Garrettson, that's why Garrettson was living there to take care of the dogs. That was why he had put them there. And there was only one of them was a big dog, or the other two were quite little dogs. I think, yeah, 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 for little first dogs. Yeah, one of them was bigger, I think, as well. Yeah, but none of them were like guard dogs, trained guard dogs, or out like that. Yeah. There's a bit in the grand jury testimony when Susan says randomly that she looked out the window and she saw a dog as they were killing people in the living room. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Gura has a lot to say. Yeah, I was surprised by how much he said about Stephen Parent and stuff like that as well. Yeah. Lasso, you meant. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, this has been going over an hour now. Sorry, I'm going to have to cut a lot out of it because it sounds like the audio went really bad on that article, which was a pain in the ass because it was a good article. But like I say, you can read it on the subreddit or in the Facebook group. Hmm. But yes, thanks for coming, everyone. And I could do that May Brussels one, that May Brussels one next week, because that doesn't take any preparation, obviously, because we're just listening to the show and reacting to it. So that'll be interesting. There's a couple of bit points she gets wrong and stuff like that, but people get angry when I contradict her. But I'm just, trying to be balanced and point things out. I'm not trying to debunk her. I don't hate her. I'm not trying to say she's wrong, but she wasn't right about everything, and she went off on the wrong tangents. Like all these people do. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll come back in a bit, in about 5 minutes, and do an after show now. Thanks for coming, and stay until the end. And yeah, I'll see you next week if you're not coming to the after show. Good night, and thanks for coming. Oh, like and